Welcome. Gio and I are here with Kane Willmott, co-founder and CEO of IQ Offices and one of the very few repeat guests on the Flex Uncensored podcast.
Yeah, special.
You were last on in May, episode number 105. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me again.
Yeah. Gio, where are you dialing in from today?
I'm home. I've been home a week and a half.
What?
Oh,
Wow.
growing
Okay.
roots.
I'll take it. I will take it. I don't know what to do with myself,
I
but
was
I'll
going to
take
say,
it.
you're totally going to get antsy and you're going to start filling up the schedule so that you can, yeah. This is after doing, well, you might have covered this with your surprise co-host today. Gio
No,
used
we've been.
the Carolinas to do disaster relief after the hurricane.
Yeah, it's just crazy to watch stuff online and sit back and not do anything when you have the flexibility to. So funny enough, I was actually supposed to be in Colorado that week hiking a 14er with a bunch of my guys. And I just said, look, I asked for my commitment back and I said the 14er will be there and whenever I want it to be. But when there's people that need help, if you got the flexibility to do it, why not? And I know y'all both have that kind of heart. And
Tell me more about that, Gio. I saw your LinkedIn post on that, but give me the summary of how that.
Yeah,
all
what do you do while you're
Yeah.
there? Yeah.
so, part of the coaching stuff that I did, so it's about 9 years ago. So what happens is I go in and I work with people that are coming through and wanting to deal with their life change situation, whatever it is. And about 8 years ago, a guy was put in front of me that I knew nothing of and just ran through the process, right? What's working for you, what's not working for you. And then part of that is we deal with anger, guilt, fear. Where are you in your life type of deal? And the long story short, it ended up being a sergeant major Marine that was active. And I didn't know any better, right? And so I was just able to work with him through his stuff. And he had started an organization called Sheepdog Impact Assistance with the idea of what do I do when I retire? How do I continue serving people that have served the military? And essentially, he created this organization to help people that have served get off the couch and get engaged in life. A lot of them struggle with post trauma, right? Whether it be physical in a lot of cases, right? We have people that have lost limbs, and then we've got people that just don't know how to deal with the trauma. And so mentally and emotionally they struggle. So that's one side of it. And then the other side is in order to get them off the couch, what they do is they do adventures. And so they take them to do they just got back from Hawaii here recently and they did a Spartan race out there, or they went to hike and fish in Yellowstone, or, they've done Mount Rushmore. They did Kilimanjaro. I think this was the second or third year. But then the other part is they actually do disaster response, right? And so that's a way for these people to give back. And so, I'm blessed that I get able to parachute in as a non-sheepdog military person, and they allow non-military people to volunteer with them, but I'm able to kind of parachute in and run side by side with them. And so part of it is they do everything from, like in Houston, when we did that a few years ago, we basically were mucking out houses, which is if you remember Houston, a storm came through and basically blew off everyone's roofs. And then a second storm blew through and rained in everyone's homes. And so what happened was the insulation got wet and got so heavy that it basically dropped through with all the flooding that was going on as well. So we were basically going into houses and basically mucking out all the insulation, and they hadn't had power for multiple weeks. And so we had to clean out refrigerate. We were basically throwing away full refrigerators and freezers. And then in North Carolina, a big part of it was just the damage from debris and everything else. And so going in and helping people remove trees from their homes, right? So we have a saw crew that does that. We had about 80 people for this one. And so different teams that went different directions, about an hour and a half outside of Asheville in every which way direction. And the hard part of it was we did a lot of great work, but the hard work and the devastating stuff that we've all seen online is really up in the mountains, right? It was where basically those mountain communities hadn't seen floods like that. And so it wasn't even the flooding, it was the mudslides that caused all the devastation and took all the lives. And the hardest part about it is, I mean, they're still, unfortunately, still finding bodies. Here we are 3 weeks out because they're having to undig homes and businesses, and it's the mud that caused a lot of that. And so it was difficult. And for me, I realized on this deployment that it's as much as me serving the community as it is serving the people that are serving, right? Because a lot of these people that are there as volunteers are still trying to figure out how to deal with their PTSD, right? They're still trying to figure out how to deal with their trauma. And I mean, like a big part that I was just talking to someone about today is as people that give, sometimes we feel bad receiving, right? And so that's part of what I was helping these people understand is you're here because you have a heart of service, and it's okay to receive something back from these people, right? And we had community families showing up and making us meals, right? Children showing up and wanting to sing us songs, and it's just so amazing to watch. And so sometimes we feel guilty enjoying those moments, right, amidst all the chaos. So sometimes we just have to be reminded that it's okay to receive in those situations, or else we wouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing, Gio. It's what an opportunity for you to reach outside of your day to day, and because you live, like we all live in our bubbles, right?
Yeah.
And and for you to be able to go and see that and be able to contribute, I mean, I get it's got to be, it's got to be traumatic, but it's also got to feel pretty amazing too to be able to help.
Yeah, no, and the great part about it is I get to come along side by side with the leadership and step in and check on them, right? Because that's what happens a lot. And you guys are leaders, you get it, is sometimes as leaders, no one comes in and checks on us, right? And so when we're able to show up and go, hey, Kane, how are you doing? Hey, Jamie. It's funny, Jamie and I had you and I had that moment a few weeks ago where I was like, we got off and I was like, okay, you're not right. What's going on? And we were able to have that discussion, right? And it ended up working out. But I think sometimes we forget that leaders need as much of that stuff as we can get from other leaders or people that just care, right? Because I tell people all the time is whenever you're dealing with difficult situations, whatever they may be, you're taking on poison that affects us, right? I mean, Kane, as you deal with your staff and members and everything else, there's stuff that happens that sometimes you walk away and you're just like, oh wow, that was heavy or that was difficult. And so unless you have a good outlet, it makes it difficult. And that's why I love, again, full circle back to what we get to do is the communities we get to build, the people we get to build. I mean, Jamie, we've had guests on that have talked about how being part of the community saved them because they had an intruder break in, right? As we had someone on last year that shared that, and she dealt with all that devastation. And we've had people come in and, experience loss and all kinds of stuff. So that's what I get to enjoy about what we get to do. Right. And the community that we've all built.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the great things about the community that we have is, sometimes you feel like what you're going through, no one else has gone through, and it's like, you're the one dealing with it. And, to your point, like as a leader, you gotta take that on, right? You gotta make sure everybody else is taken care of first. That's kind of the thing, right? But, but sometimes you gotta put on your own oxygen mask, right? To like, look at like, what do you need? And I find our community that we have, through GWA, through Lexi, through Juicy, like, all the community that we have in co-working is absolutely amazing, second to none. I don't believe there's another industry out there like ours. Well, maybe there is, and I just don't know about it, but like just so many amazing people that are so generous with their time, that are so open and transparent and willing to help, and are generally invested in the community and they care about you, as a person. So it's great. I mean, I've relied on it now for over 12 years, my support group.
Yeah. And it's a great segue. I mean, that's actually why we have you on. But I mean, the exciting part is, I'm at GWA trying to kick that off. And we've got obviously everything we got to deal with logistically and trying to get people situated. And Stormy was there. And then Liz is texting me, hey, good luck. I hope the next 2 days go great. And same thing, with you being in London, right? Same thing. I unfortunately couldn't be there, but I was texting Stormy and Liz, I'm like, hey, today's going to be an awesome day, right? And so it's fun to sit back and watch the successes of other people within the industry, because I mean, if other people are successful, we are too, right? And that's part of what I'm loving about being part of the industry and everything that we're doing. And again, that's why Jamie wanted to have you on again. I'll catch up, but also we got to see your videos, and we knew that you were out in London experiencing Juicy, but at the same time doing the tours and doing all that kind of stuff. So why don't you kind of bring us up to speed on, your trip and kind of what your experience was?
Sure. Yeah, 100%. So I'll walk through how the trip kind of came together and how we structure these trips usually, because there's the conference itself, but then what I usually try to do is go and really understand what's happening locally in the community in terms of
Yeah.
like what kind of co-working spaces are out there, or who are the owners, who are the people. I want to know who are the people, who are the locals, and really get a sense of what the co-working scene is in that market. Like when we went to GWA in Phoenix, we came in early. We did some different tours, went and saw the Lucid space and a number of other spaces, and just got a feel of, okay, how are they building out here? What's the dynamics? I like to understand. I find in the US is very different than Canada. Suburbs are very different. They're
Yeah.
served differently than a Canadian market. So that's really interesting to me. So talking about London, we were there in January of 2023, and we went to a design show over there, which we did to kick off this new project that we're doing, a 60,000 square foot building here in Toronto. And we wanted to look at like forward design. So we went to a design show, and then we went and toured a bunch of spaces. And it became obvious to me very quickly that the UK is just miles ahead in terms of co-working. Like it's like stepping into a time machine and forwarding 5 years from like North America. I would say,
Yep.
maybe longer from Canada, probably from the US, the major markets where I think that are sophisticated, like a New York, right? So anyway, so we saw a lot of great things, had a lot of great learnings, came back. Then Juicy London came up, and I had the opportunity to take our our VP of operations, which is Carly, and then Dara, who runs our sales for all of Toronto, to that same trip and show them what I saw when I was over there. Because, like with real estate, you got to walk the real estate, right? And so I can tell you all day long what this co-working space was, or how it felt, or what the neighborhoods were like, and I can describe it, but you really got to go and see it. Once you see it and once you walk it, that's how
Yeah.
you understand it, right? So I was able to take them over. I would say from a professional development perspective, from a retention perspective, like I could see the excitement on Dara's face and on Carly's face. And I was able to go over, and we sat down for a couple of hours with Johnny and his operations person and his salesperson, with my operations person, my salesperson, and we had lunch. He brought in a lunch for us, which was amazing. And, we talked about what SpaceMate is doing. We talked about how he's structuring. I was talking about how he's structuring his deals. Our sales, on the sales side, they were talking about how they're constructing their sales. We were talking about AI. We were talking about the software. We were talking about the touch points and those things. And then on the ops side, the same thing. It's so great to be able to have these conversations and connect your team to teams in other markets, because everyone just speaks really openly. I will say that, of all the markets and all the traveling that I've done over the last 12 years, I've found that, and as we go back to the community, people are so welcoming. Like when I sent Johnny a message, and I hadn't seen Johnny since Chicago at GC, we did a dinner, and I sent him a message that, hey, I'd love to stop by to tour your space. And he said, well, why don't I bring in lunch, and I'll bring in my sales and ops person too, and let's talk. And then I did a post on LinkedIn, and he said that was one of the best couple of hours he's had in a very long time. And I absolutely agree. We walked out of that meeting with them, and both Dara and Carly were like, this is on our first day. And they said, this is already the highlight of the entire trip. This was absolutely amazing. Since then, Carly's had a call with Nick, their ops person, and Dara's connected with Rachel, their salesperson, So it's amazing to make those connections. I think it's an investment to bring staff to these events, but it's dollars well spent. It gets them connected with others in the industry. It helps them from a sophistication perspective to understand what other companies are doing. It invigorates them.
Yeah.
So So I think that's an important thing to do. So when I go to these conferences, I'm sorry, there's a bunch of, can you hear the fire? Okay.
Yeah.
That's going on in the background right now. So when I set these things up, I usually go in a couple of days early. I tour a bunch of co-working spaces. I try to, I lean on relationships. Like reached out to Liz. Liz, who should I see? Right. So she rhymes off some names. You got to see this person. You got to see Nikki. You got to see Chris. You got to see Johnny. You got to see. So she starts going through all the people you got to see. And it's like amazing. So then I reach out to all these people and I set up times to go and meet with everyone. And then I also ask everyone, like, what's the best co-working space in the market? What's the highest end? We try to be, that's us. So we try to be very high end with our spaces. So
Yep.
what is the best in class? And so we get some information on that. Steven from Nexus, he was giving me some recommendations as well. So we went and saw a bunch of spaces. So it is like back to back. I will tell you that if you talk to Dara and Carly, there was not a spare 2 minutes, in the whole time we were there. We were on the run. But I mean, we compressed in those days before, we compressed it into like all these meetings, all these tours, saw all these spaces, and we're able to really like, oh, pick this out, pick that out. That's interesting. This is interesting, right? And then, obviously to spend time with your team outside of the office and really get that opportunity to step back and get to know each other better, in a unique environment. Amazing. So we do that beforehand. Then we do the conference. And again, the conference is another one where, going to the GWA conference, bringing staff. When I first started, I only went myself. It was mostly a budgetary thing. It was just a lot of fun, right? So I didn't bring my team with me. And I can tell you that as soon as we were able to afford it, I started doing it. And then when I saw the look on the face of the people that I take and I saw how much they were getting, I mean, I get that much out of it, but I don't know that everybody else does. But everyone I've ever taken to a conference comes back, says that was an unbelievable experience. Like, thank you so much for taking me. It is, I learned so much, and they're excited about what they're doing when they come back from it. So we went into the conference. Liz and Stormy put on such an amazing event, right? Like there was great content. She had Rob Teal on stage doing like what you had done, Jamie, same sort of idea, right? With and so Rob had an opportunity to talk about what he's doing. And we've heard, I've had the benefit of spending a lot of time with Rob and talking to him. And I think both of you have as well. But even still, they're having a conversation, some new things come up, right? Like you're like, oh, that's interesting. Didn't know that actually. So that was great. And there were some dinners involved as well. But the content was really good. The content was set up really well. It was a well-attended event. It was in a convene, which Liz has done before. Beautiful location, right downtown in Bishopsgate. So we did that. We did a Lexi dinner, Lexi breakfast at the Duck and Waffle, which is on the top floor of Bishopsgate. It's a restaurant that's open 24 hours. So because Liz said, you got to get everybody to the conference on time, I started at 7 a.m. As we were walking in, there were drunk people walking out. It was a wild experience. I mean, that's London, I guess. So we did all that. On the last day, we did the tours that were all set up. Emily was leading our tour, and we got an opportunity to go through a bunch of the tours and see a bunch of the spaces. So that was the structure of kind of what we did and how we did it when we were there. I think what's interesting is, what do we see when we were over there? And we saw Chris Davies, Uncommon. We saw his new location, 110,000 square feet, I believe, if I'm correct. It was stunning. Wait,
one location is 110,000 feet?
Yes.
Yeah.
He has the entire building, and it is like, it's like nothing I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen some nice stuff, and I really felt like from 2010, maybe 2015, like New York was it. You go to New York, you see everything in terms of what's the future, because that's where they get the highest prices and there's the most amount of capital and all the things. Now I feel it is definitely London. Like, to give you an example, they have plants everywhere in this facility. They have a lower level that has like a curated bar where they have, like, they serve all the food and they have all the staff, and they had a big breakfast that was there when we were there, but they have plants in the basement. And I'm like, how do you get these plants to grow in the basement? They have hydroponic lights. They just look like regular lights, like spotlights sort of thing. And you're looking in the basement, there's this gorgeous, this lush, it looks like a forest downstairs. And it's these hydroponic lights kind of throughout all the spaces, right? They were 85% leased. in this space, and it's newly open. I think they were open but not done, not completely open in October. I think they've only been open since the beginning of the summertime, and they're already stabilized at that location. So they're doing extremely well. Yeah. If you go to
Well, one of the quick things I wanted to point out, I mean, not necessarily plant related, but you go to the web, this is like the main page of their website.
Yeah.
And like the third, section down is ESG. You don't see that in the US at all. It's
And
just not, it doesn't show up. I mean,
yeah, it's on every
Yeah.
page over there. So like they are so far. So that's an example. So they are so far ahead. And Carly, our VP of operations, was talking to Nicholas, who works at SpaceMate with Johnny, and so once you got back here, it's like, okay, tell me about B Corp, tell me about ESG, tell me about like how are you doing with all these things? Because we want to get ahead of it. Right now, we have a select group of companies that are asking us for this information. So the large ones, the ones you'd expect are asking us for this. But like we focus on enterprise, and even still, it's a very small percentage. Like it's in the single digit percentages of companies that ask us for the
right
ESG.
now. Yeah.
Right now. If you talk to anyone over in the UK, they're like, this is table stakes. Like if you don't have this, you're not in business, because there's so many companies you're just not able to do business with because they have these requirements. And we have some UK companies that are smaller UK companies in terms of the size of the organization, and also their offices here, that have asked us for ESG stuff, which seems strange for someone who's in a 3-person office and the organization is not even that big.
But they track it, right? So they have to, it's important to them. The metrics are. Yeah. We have a podcast coming up with the Instant Group and IWBI to talk about the Well Co-working rating, which I think is really taking off over there because of these, right? Because it's on the demand side.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. So I think you need to get ahead of it. You need to get ahead of this, because I think at some point you're going to be behind, because what you're going to find is you're going to get overwhelmed with these prospects that come in, and you're not going to be prepared. And what does that mean? It means you're going to lose the sales. So if someone's already on site and they ask you for this stuff, you can give it to them, and you can give it to them on your terms, because they're already in the space and you got to figure it out. You can explain that to them, and so on and so forth. If you have a prospect coming in that's saying, if you're not aligned on the ESP and you don't have a B Corp and you don't have these things set up, then we can't consider you. Like, you're not on our list. We're just going to go somewhere else. And you're not going to get it in time, right, to save that lead. So, and usually these are big companies. Usually it's something very important. Usually we're talking about a lot of revenue that you could potentially miss out as a result. So getting ahead of that is extremely important. But when you look at these companies in the UK, they've already navigated all the challenges around doing it, right? Like in terms of how they build, how they operate, how they document, how they certify. These are all the things that we're navigating right now. Like we're going to have this in place in very short order. And it is as a result of us going to the UK and establishing relationships with trusted groups that will help us. And again, being so very generous with their time, will help us navigate what we need to do on the ESG side. So that was really interesting. We went and saw the Huxton co-working space. Have you seen the Huxton? Have either of you seen the Huxton? I think
it's the one in Chicago.
In Chicago.
Yeah. How big's the one in Chicago? Curious.
And it's an entire floor, so probably about 25,000 feet-ish.
Okay. So when in my mind's eye, when I was thinking Huxton co-working space, I was thinking, okay, so it's basically like a business, lounge, but it's just a little nicer, right? No, in London, they have 42,000 square feet of co-working space. It is built out. The space is stunning. Basically everything is millwork, everything. So there's wood everywhere. Like there's wood and glass and marble. And it's like, wow, this is like stunning, stunning, stunning space. And, I just haven't seen anything like that in North America to that level. I think they spent a ton of money on that space. Yeah. And the different metrics and those sort of things. Interestingly enough, what they say is the business goes from the co-working to the hotel, but not the other way. Right? Like most of the time the guests that go to the hotel are just, and you wouldn't think that intuitively, but what they say is the guests in the hotel work out of their hotel room. They've got meetings, they're doing things, right? But the people in the co-working space will have people come in from town. Of course, where are they going to stay? Right. So that's where they see more of the uptake in terms of, so that, what does that mean? It means that the hotel is going to do some different math, right? Look at the relationship that Staples had with Work Bar on co-working, and they were looking at it as, if I put a co-working space, I drive this much more sales. So do they care about what they get on the co-working space? Kind of. I mean, their math is certainly different than a traditional operator. I would say that Huxton has that same sort of situation where they're saying, if I put in this much co-working space, I'm going to drive this many nights in the hotel. So she was full, 100% full. And she does, Lucy was the name of the CM at that location. She's amazing. The best, one of the best tours I've ever had. Like, she was so knowledgeable, could answer any question. Like, there's a reason why they're doing that well. Like, they've got it all together. They don't do any term. Like, they will do term, but they don't encourage it. So almost all of their membership is month to month. And what they do is they say it's month to month. And then when you hit the 1 year mark, then we bump you. And I think they even look at it like a pro rata, like every Jan 1, we bump everyone. And we're going to go up by 3% or whatever it is. And we go to everybody and say, we're going to bump you 3%. We give them notice to say, we're going to bump you 3% ahead of time. So if you want out, you don't have to pay it. Right. And I was like, oh, like, think about managing a center where you don't have to like sit down and negotiate with everyone and say, and pay for everything and yada, yada. Or like, literally, it's just like, send a notice. Here you go. Right.
Well, right. And inflation in the UK was pretty through the roof for a couple of years. So, this may have been their strategy, before then, but you can't be behind, 10%.
Yeah.
Because you didn't bump anybody. And also, well, Kevin Whelan, we had Kevin on recently, talking about like where you compete, like they're not competing on price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
You want to work here? This is what it costs. And it's going to go up 3% a year. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really interesting business model, just because usually, like, knowing that basically 100% of your membership, and not all are this way, but like, so people can go into term, from what I understand, but knowing that your entire portfolio could empty out 100% with next month.
Oh, yeah. But it doesn't.
It doesn't. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't. But it
But
could.
also, do you think the mindset comes from their hotel roots? Like, their entire portfolio empties out almost every day. And it works.
That is such a good point.
Yeah.
And that is so interesting that you say that, because that's a perfect example of how someone from another industry can look at what we do and just easily implement something that all of us are super scared, like, afraid.
They're like, oh my God, 30 days? Or,
30 days? Wait, even 30.
30 times what we're getting right now, or 15
Exactly.
times.
They're like, I got a whole 30 days. Like, that's a dream, right? And I think from the customer's perspective, in a lot of ways, I think it's a better experience. I think from the I'm running the operations perspective, if you can handle the risk and it's priced appropriately, it's way easier to manage. Because right now, like, our sales team has expiries every single month where they're sitting down and saying, your contract's coming up, and let's talk about it, and let's, we gotta increase because of inflation and all the things. This is just a ton of conversations, and they're essentially saying, okay, here it goes out on November 1. By the way, we're going up by 6% as of January 1. If you want to give, I'm sure they say it really nicely, but basically, want to give notice, we're not forcing you, right?
Yeah.
So, think about how much easier that is to manage than contract by contract on expiry.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great point, because that's how Fuse got in the business, right? Is they own hotels, and that's exactly how he views it. Is, he's actually ecstatic to get a 6 or 12-month deal, but they were used to inventory dying every night, and he's like ecstatic that he can get a 30-day deal. But they do sign.
Maybe we shouldn't put it that way, Gio. Inventory dying every night.
Well, changing over, I don't know what you want to call it. But I'll give you another great example. Cato actually does that too, is they do month to month, right? And so, it's the exact same. Their view is, we can just sell more by not locking people in and that making them feel comfortable with that they have the flexibility.
The commitment phobic. Yeah, I think that's alive and well, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think.
Tell you, they never went under 80% in most of their locations, even in the middle of COVID.
Wow, that's impressive. In a lot of ways, I like it. So when Lucy was telling me about it, I'm like, okay, this is actually very cool. Let's talk a little bit more about how this works. Because I think from the UX perspective, if you go, you can make a decision much easier if you're saying, like you're telling me I can move in, I could hate it, and I can be out next month. So where's my risk here, right? Number one. So it doesn't become a 1 year decision. It becomes a 1 month decision at the end of the day. So I think that's much better. I also think from the operator's perspective, every single day you got to reinforce the value proposition. Like we think that way anyway. So why not stand behind that? If you're creating the value proposition and making sense for them every single day, then you shouldn't be worried about what's going to happen at the end of the month. The caveat on that is COVID. Where you move into a lockdown state where it's against the law to go to your office. That creates challenges. But I can also say, going back into COVID, that didn't, even when companies were in term, that did not preclude us from having conversations with every single one of our members, figuring out their situation, making concessions where needed, right? So I'm not sure that, I have to think about it. It's philosophical, right? It's like, is this going to work? It's the ethos of how you run the organization. So anyway, that's an example of when you go somewhere else, you see how someone else is doing something, you have that opportunity to get outside, like climb the trees, as I always say, right? See where things are going and see where you think the industry might be heading. So design perspective, I would say there's just a lot of money being spent over there. I think they're getting more on their spaces. The high-end spaces, like the staff are wearing uniforms, which is interesting. I've never seen anyone wear a uniform in North America. It's possible.
Like we're talking more
like the exact same colors or the exact same outfit. I mean, defined uniform.
Yeah, more than a branded polo.
Correct. Yeah. No, I like a legit uniform. So that's something that you don't really see in North America. And then we saw Thor in the office group, and they stunning spaces. I went the second time to see one of the locations I'd seen. The last time I was there, I just wanted Dara and Carly to see it. So we went there and we checked it out, and just to say, like, look at this, see how beautiful this is. There's a lot of ownership in that market. There's a report here. Let me share my screen. I want to show you this one thing because I think this is really interesting. So this is a Savills report from, I'm sorry for all the stuff on my screen here, but I think you can only see this. So there's a Savills report here. This is from 2023. So in 2019, this was a conventional lease, 80%. There was 10% owned, landlords were doing it, and 9% management agreements. In 2023, 43% management agreements.
Is this in the UK?
Yeah, in London.
Wow.
And 52% were conventional leases. So and then you have the owned assets. So this is a really interesting stat, right? Going from 9% to 43%. Again, when you talk about the future of what's going to happen in our industry, I think you go to markets like that because it's been accepted more. Yeah. I've heard anything from 6 to 10% of inventory. I've seen two different stats thrown around, but I mean, if you look at 6 to 10%, when you look at North America, you're looking at 1 to 3.5%, right? Like 3.5 would be Manhattan. So when you look at it as a percentage of inventory, 10% of inventory is a considerable multiple of what we have in our North American markets. Yeah. So it's just everybody
like
knows
3x. I mean, you could call it 3x.
Easily 3x.
Yeah.
Right? Easily 3x. It means that like the landlords understand it better, the consumer understands it better, the operators understand it better, right? So that's why everything's so far advanced in that market. And it shows, I believe, where the future is going to go, because they've had to break down the barriers that we're dealing with right now in North America. And I know, Gio, you deal with this every single day, is like speaking to landlords. When Ariga goes to a landlord and says, I want to do a management deal, they're not like, what is that? Or how does that work? Yeah. Like most of them are like, yeah, I know how that works, right? Like Ariga's probably, they've been around a long time, right? Zach and Paul, and they've probably, talked to pretty much every landlord in the market and explained, here's how the structure, and this is how it works. If you look at Johnny for SpaceMate, he does all management deals in his spaces. And then Chris, he owns all of his buildings, right? At Uncommon. So there's, very much different structures than what we're seeing in North America. And I think there will be, in the fullness of time, and I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know when, but at some point there's going to be a great unlock of management deals, alignment with landlords. We're going to get there. It's just, I don't know how long it takes us to get to the position of where the UK is now.
So, I mean, it's hold on, I'm fact checking a little bit. ChatGPT, which needs its own fact checking, thinks that New York City is 3 to 4%. So co-working is 3 to 4% of total office inventory. And it thinks only 6 to 7% in London. So maybe 2 times. It does say there are 1,400 co-working spaces in London alone.
Yeah. Think about that. 14. I mean, it's a massive market, but think
Yeah.
like 1,400. Yeah. So that's what I was saying. I saw the 6% figure. I seen the 10% figure.
Yeah. You think maybe, you're leaning
Yeah,
into the 10.
I'm not sure which one's right, but I can say that if it is on the low side, which would be 6%, that's still 2x the best, the highest density densified North American market, which is New York.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The height. Right.
So
That's crazy.
That's why, like, if you haven't been, Jamie, I know you've been. Have you been, Gio? Have you been to London and tooled around?
I have been. I haven't been since I was with Regis, but when I was with Regis, I went over there. But it's been 8 years, right? And so 9 years. Then it's just only gotten stronger of a market since then. But back then, I still remember they had to have timers on the phone booths because people would go in there and sit all day. And so they literally had timers that would go off every hour, and the staff would come and kick people out, and a new set of people could go in there. But yeah, it's definitely one of those markets that is setting the precedent for the entire globe.
Wait, and one of you I was talking to, maybe it was Kane, who said there's a website for brokers to, like, the broker, maybe it was Gio, maybe it was, oops, maybe it was Kurt.
Valve?
I think it was Kurt.
Anything but Valve?
No, not Valve. I think it might have been Kurt. We just talking about the engagement of brokers in Flex and how different it is in the UK because it is 7% of the market. You can't ignore it, right? Whereas here, getting a broker's attention is very difficult.
So what they're experiencing in the UK is that brokers are leaving the big brokerage houses. They're setting up a website. They are, or even people that aren't brokers, they're just setting up a website. They're throwing a bunch of inventory onto the website, and then they're going and doing these flex deals. Like, there's a lot of flex. They're just focused on flex, and they do the 10 and 2 or whatever the case may be. And they're just like, all these brokers, there's such an opportunity in the UK to make all these huge commissions. And they're following the model of all the online, the online broker.
Right? But more of an like boutique real life brokerage service.
Yeah. So they'll go so you would go to the website, you'd say, I'm interested in a 10-person office.
Yeah.
You get a call from a real broker, or someone who acts like a broker, because you don't have to be like licensed. And then that person will meet you and tour you around the different spaces. So that's really interesting. That's what you see when you start to see a market that gets to that size.
Yeah. I was just trying to think, I was like, where could you do that here? Like maybe Dallas, probably New York, not here, sorry, in the US, Kane's not, maybe Toronto. Could you do it in Toronto?
Oh, no. There's not, it's just not a big enough market. Like that someone could focus entirely on Flex and only go to Flex operators. Okay. Like, we're still a small percentage of the overall inventory. We're talking 2%. So if you look in New York, at least New York, you're 3 to 4%, but you're also contained on an island so that you could actually meet someone, tour them around, and show them probably 10 spaces in Midtown in the span. Right? So I think that's interesting. But I know that obviously as an operator, I can say that we are reluctant to get onto 100 different platforms because it's just managing all those platforms is extremely difficult. And that's one of the challenges that they have there too, is that, every single day there's a new one popping up.
So going back to the actual conference and the committee, kind of switching hats real fast, who's
the committee? I missed that.
About the conference?
You said conference and committee.
Oh, I don't even know.
Oh,
kind of going back to the conference and talking about how we'll call Liz and Stormy the committee. How's that? Yep. How well they did with the content and everything. What was it about the content, the speakers, that you found so exciting to be a part of?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a plug for Francesco, because we did a fireside chat, same sort of thing as we did at MBA. And so we talked about what was going on the AI side, which I think, garnered quite a bit of interest. He had a gentleman on, Dean. He used to work for WeWork, and he did like all of their design all over the world. And it was talking about how they created custom furniture lines, and then they figured out a way to do just in time. So they would look at, how do I do a just in time furniture orders in Shanghai, and then also do it in New York, and then also do it in Beijing, and also do it in London, and all these different places, and talking about having consistency while at the same time doing local design. His talk was like captivating. Like the whole time it was like hanging on the words, and he had a presentation that was just fantastic. It was one of the highlights of the conference was that. It was the chat with Rob, always good. Him coming on was amazing, because now he's doing it as like a consultant. So now he's no longer as WeWork, he's doing it as a consultant, but he had this background. But he also talked about his whole story about how he's so young and he's from the UK, and he went over to New York. He did this interview, and they basically hired him on the spot. And he's like, oh my God, I got to move to New York. Right. So he just went through that whole experience. Liz just does a really good job and Stormy did such a good job of getting the right people in the room. They're so talented at that, right? Whether it's a dinner for one of the sponsors, putting on, getting the right people there, or it's getting the content put together in a way that speaks to the people that are coming. I think, she's always thinking about that. And I think when you look at London, it's a different crowd than it is in Phoenix, right? Or in North America. So there was content specific to people in London, but then she also had like Sarah Travers on a panel talking about how she sells and makes co-working profitable with Work Bar in Boston. So she brings in international conversations at the same time, looking at some of the local things. So if you were coming in from outside London, people talking about that, also people talking about what was happening in the suburbs. So it was just really interesting and really good content. And then of course, standing outside and just talking to everybody, it was great. The conference was set up in a really unique way, and just we were able to spend some time with people and have some interesting conversations.
Convene such a great venue. Okay, so I was in London last year, and you gave me some spaces to visit. Talk about food and beverage and what's happening in London with F&B, and what maybe what was on the slide deck when you came back around.
Yeah. So food and beverage, I feel like food and beverage is the future of our industry. I think it's so important because people congregate around food. They really do. It's food and beverage. When we do our happy hours, it is bumping, right? In our lounges. And we do breakfast in the morning. So we do a whole layout breakfast for all of our members, and we put it out at 8:30 in the morning. And like in the mornings, everybody's in the lounge because they come to get their pastries and their bagels and the granola and yogurt and all the different things.
Protein. Where's the protein?
Protein bars. We have protein bars there. We also, I'm trying to think of what some of the other protein things that we have.
Hard-boiled eggs.
Not eggs. No, we don't have like a hot thing, as of right now, but like we're always sampling and we're always trying to see how does that work. So right now, everything that we do at IQ is complimentary. We have a barista in Montreal who just we put the exact same machine at the location that they have at Starbucks. And then we hire ex-Starbucks people to make Starbucks style coffees for everyone, fully complimentary. And we essentially tie it to our ability to sell the space as well as our ability to retain members. So we kind of work it into we recapture that cost in the space, a 33,000 square foot space. We have a barista at our new location, same deal, 60,000 square foot space. The math, I think, works. But when you go to the UK, they're running full food and beverage programs. All of them are charging for it. But because they're charging for it, I think it's elevated. So that's kind of the gap, right? If you give everything away for free, you can only do so much.
I'm not getting my eggs. Yeah.
Right. And I don't have a commercial kitchen and all those sort of things. You go to the Alex, who runs the ministry. I think you went to that space. I think that I had that on the list. He's got a food and beverage program. He's got a commercial kitchen. He's got a chef that makes these sausage rolls that are just out of the world. And what he does, so he has a bar there, and then basically at 3:00 or 4:00 in the afternoon, he turns the lounge. So it's like a working lounge, certain kind of music. Bang. As soon as 4:00 rolls around, the lights come down, the music changes, the bar opens. And then he said things that they would do would be like creating a signature cocktail for one of their very important members. So if it was, you had a company, if it was a Verizon, they would have like the Verizon Horizon or something, and they would create like a special cocktail just for them. Or if you were doing a special event, they would create a special cocktail, and they have, the person who's behind the bar is obviously very talented in making drinks and that sort of thing. And but if you look at their space, they've got like a nightclub that's a world-renowned nightclub that's actually connected in, to the same organization. So food and beverage events is really what they do. But then when you go to, so it makes sense that they would have some of these things. If you look at Uncommon as the example, Chris's new location, he has a public facing cafe that is like I'm trying to think, like it's a medium-sized Starbucks. That's how big it is. It's like there's seating, everything you pay for. It's good, it's the point of sale system, all that sort of thing, beautifully designed. And then there's a glass sliding door, and then there's reception for the co-working space, which is like just unbelievable with all the plants, and then they got everything on that side. So you can see how for all of the bigger operators, like food and beverage is becoming extremely important as part of the offering. It means more staff. It means more food. It means a completely different business with all kinds of spoiling inventory and all kinds of like slippage. It's challenging at best. I remember talking to Nick about, selling, like when he bought the coffee company, and he was telling me about like how if you're on this corner, you will do great. You are 2 doors over on this one side, you're not making a business, like it's that even with high margins in coffee, it's a difficult, challenging business. But I think if you want to offer a high level offering and you want to attract like you want to track the high rates that the market will tolerate, you got to have it. It's got to be part of it. It's got to be part of the offering.
But those are open to the public, and are they run by like a vendor, or is the co-working?
No, I think he runs it. So I asked you, just like you do. I asked a million questions. I'm sure you're saying when you're running through. So I was like, do you run that? Is that all part of it? It's like, yeah, no, we run that, and then you could actually have that piece where like the members can come down and use that, they get to know the barista there and everything else. So I thought it was really interesting because we've always given everything away for free. And then we keep on kind of layering it on and layering it on and layering it on. And like our food and beverage expense is not insignificant, right?
Right. And to your point, you have to be able to pull that, like it has to come from like LTV or the rates you can charge. Like it's got to be somewhere, or occupant. I mean, right. You have to be able to say like, well, this is why we have occupancy or one of the other metrics in order to justify it.
And it's
difficult. I think you don't have to charge for it. I think people want that experience. I mean, I would pay all day for good food and beverage.
Oh, no, I agree.
Also, it gives you the opportunity, like the signature cocktail, because then you can layer in hospitality. Hospitality is hard to do without food and bev. I mean, it's harder, right? Like, what does that constitute? You can be friendly. I mean, there's things you can do, but the signature cocktail, the, favorite latte, like all those things just are easier to layer in. So even if you charge for it, you can have that layer of, well, this is what we do for our members. We do the extras.
Absolutely. And every month we do a signature cocktail at IQ. So for happy hour, we do a signature cocktail. Okay. Every single month we do something interesting. But I never thought of extending that to like one of our members and say, why don't we host or you for your team, and we'll do a signature cocktail and we'll name it after your company. Like that is, that's cool. That is super cool. Very memorable.
That's brilliant. Speaking of running, did you work out while you were over there?
I did. I went for one run. It's just like I did so many steps because we were seeing so many different spaces. But I actually ran along. Johnny had recommended this. So did Stephen. And so ran along the river. So I went from the London Bridge down to the Eye, which is like where you go around, like the big Ferris wheel, which I went on with Brad from Hub Australia. Brad was there from Hub Australia. Cliff was there from Australia. 24 hours on a plane to go to London. Like it's craziness. Wow. But anyway, so I went to the Eye, did that with the team. That was also an amazing like team bonding thing. And it was great to see Brad there too. And then crossed the river and then came back. And so it ended up being, I don't know, 12K or something along those lines. But it was so interesting because you were literally like, when you're going along the river, you're in some instances, like you're running through buildings, through tunnels, like through like train stations. It's like, it's not like just a path. It's very interesting. So
it's an adventure.
It was totally an adventure. Yeah. It was so much fun, but there were people everywhere. everywhere. One thing I can say about the UK, and this is not related to what we're talking about today, but in the US, everybody knows you walk on the right side, and so the people coming at you are also walking on the right side. For the most part, people know which side they go on. London, it's a free for all. It's probably because you have so many tourists as well. Like people walk on the right side and the left side. But when you're running, you're literally kind of
bobbing and weaving.
Yeah, bobbing and weaving. You got it.
Kind of like New York, right? New York's kind of the same way too. It's so international, but it's good. I'm glad you got a workout in.
Yep. It was good. It was good.
Wait, because you're training for tell us about your big event in December.
I'm doing the Worlds for Half Ironman in New Zealand on December 15th. So it's going to be summertime over there on December 15th. So I'm going to go over there. I'm going to see if I can tour some New Zealand's bases while I'm there for that event. And then I'm going across and I'm going to see Brad. We've already put it in the book. It's in my calendar. He's already sent me a calendar invite. We're going to meet in Sydney. We're going to have a great afternoon, which I absolutely cannot wait for. And then I met Cliff, who runs a co-working space there as well. I think he's got 8 locations. I met him at the Yardie dinner. So I'll probably pop in and see his faces as well and get a chance to see him on local turf. So yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be great. So, but I'll tell you, having a race in December is not great. Like this is my time to kind of relax and fatten up a little, right? Yeah, no.
You got to make it happen, bro.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. No excuses.
And what space does Cliff run?
Oh, I'll get that for you and I'll send it over to you. He told me, I'm just trying to remember what Cliff's spaces are. Brad spoke very highly of him, said it's got great spaces, great operator. And he's in the same markets as Brad is. So he's in Sydney and it might not be all the same markets, but I know he's in Sydney. I think he's in Melbourne as well. Really nice guy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for jumping on here, giving us a very detailed rundown of your trip. I mean, how long were you there?
I flew in on Tuesday morning, left on Friday afternoon.
Wow.
Yep. And then I'm going to go to Coworking Europe.
You are?
Yeah.
Wait, in Sofia?
In Sofia. Yeah.
That's so cool.
In fact, I'm looking at the travel plans, and because it takes so long to get there from Toronto, I have to do a stopover. And I'm thinking about doing like a 10-hour stopover in Germany. And so in Munich, and see if hop into Munich, go and see a bunch of co-working spaces, take the subway, get back on the plane, and then fly that last bit to Sofia. I've never been to Coworking Europe. Have you guys ever been to Coworking Europe? No? Yeah. I just think it would be so interesting. Like it would be a co-working conference that you go to and you wouldn't know everybody. It would be like, it would be like starting all over again.
Right. Totally.
Just be so amazing.
Yeah. Sofia is a really cool city. Just really, no, theoretically, this is just.
Well, same deal.
You told her it's a really cool city.
Well, Bulgaria, it's like.
No, I did a little research because I was like, oh, that could be, really, it was compelling.
Yes.
Just because, right. Why else would you go to Sofia?
Yeah. Well, you'd never go there. Really. I don't think but all the pictures look amazing.
Yeah.
Like it's like a beautiful spot.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's Cliff Ho and he runs the Commons.
Do you know ChatGPT was able to tell me that? All I did was ask it, who's the co-working space owner in Australia with the first name of Cliff?
That is amazing.
That is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, update on, because I know you always make fun of me on this, Jamie. Update on ChatGPT. The voice is like the voice interaction has updated again. So now it's even better than it was before.
And you can get a British accent to talk to.
I know.
So good.
So what platform do y'all use this on?
ChatGPT.
The app.
Like it's an app?
Yep.
You have to get the app version on your phone and you can talk to it. Dagny was making pretzels last night and we're not placing blame, but we used cake flour instead of regular flour. So we were talking to ChatGPT about what to do.
You see this now? That's what it looks like now. So it looks, before it had like a little thing on it and you can talk to it. It's listening to me right now. But if I say, what is Gio Pallavicini? What does he do?
Giovanni Pallavicini co-hosts the Flex Uncensored podcast and is known for his expertise in the flexible workspace industry. He's quite involved in discussions around co-working trends and the future of flexible office spaces.
Got her fooled.
See that? I thought we were on the spot now. It's not going to work for sure. All right.
That was nerve-wracking for a minute. Thank you for
Wait, are you on 4.0? What version are you on?
Well, this is called I think it's called Canva now. The new one's called, I think it's Chat 4.0 Canva.
You must be in some sort of like GPT that you made.
No. This is like, so it looks different. Instead of being the headphones, it's this symbol now. You click that.
I don't have that.
Do the update. Do the update, Jamie. Look on your app store. Because I didn't know
okay.
it didn't ask me to update. I went to the app store and just checked it. So you do the update. Yep.
All
I'm
right.
hooked.
All right. I just got it. I'm cool like you guys now.
Okay.
Well,
you can
wait.
talk to it in the car. You can ask it all sorts of questions, Gio. Talk to it about a lot of things.
It is so good. So good. Yeah. I talked to Bill Bennett.
Okay.
We're going totally off script here, but I talked to Bill Bennett a couple of weeks ago, and we were just chatting about kind of what's going on in the industry and so forth. And by the end of the call, we were talking about ChatGPT, and I said, Bill, this is going to be the one thing that's going to make this call all worthwhile. It's like, this is going to make this half hour of your life that you spent listening to me blab on about whatever it is that we're talking about. You download this will change your life.
I can't believe Bill Bennett didn't have it. Mine doesn't want to update. I might have to have you send me I don't know what's going on here. Anyway.
I'll send it to you.
Okay, well, we probably already asked you our wrap-up question.
Mm-hmm.
I have to think of a new one.
What are your favorite 3 things that you love about Jamie?
Oh, man. There's only 3? It's going to be hard to
As many as you want.
Okay. So my favorite thing about Jamie is that, first of all, like I had the opportunity to work with Jamie, right? With GWA. So Scott Chambers was the previous president. He came to me and said, hey, Kane, will you be the president? And I was on the board for a year at the time. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I wanted to get back to the industry and so forth. And he said, before I do that, I want to hire Jamie. And he introduced me to Jamie at the conference. This is going back, I don't know, 2013, something like that.
No, this would have been 17.
No. Was it that?
Yeah, I started in 16, and 17 was the year we had to move the conference because of the hurricane, and that was you.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. You're much better with dates than I am. Okay, good. So he hired Jamie kind of on his way out, and then handed.
I mean, the whole board did, not just Scott, but we'll give him
It
credit.
wasn't just Scott, but Scott was like, you're right. It was the whole board, correct? Yeah. But Scott was like, when I talked to him, he's like, you have to.
He was on point. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I got the chance to work with Jamie, and I could not believe, so organized, so intelligent, so just breaking everything down. Okay, here's what we got to do. At the time, the association had some challenges, so we had to work through some things. And Jamie just took it all on as a one-person team, which is not easy to do, right? We had zero support. And me, I was a phone call once a week, and that's all Jamie got. Really.
Well, I think Kane insisted he would do it, but no computer work.
Correct. That is right.
Which is brilliant. I'm going to start doing that now. Okay, I will, yes, but no computer work.
Yeah. Isn't that the best?
Advisory only.
Yes, that worked out really. It set out the expectations right away. You and I talked to Scott about that. I'm like, yes, I will absolutely do it. The association has given me so much. I'd be more than happy to do it, but no computer work. Because if it's going to be that, then it's going to go low priority, and I'm not going to get it done, and you're going to be unhappy and all the things. So Jamie and I spent a lot of time talking through strategy, high level. Jamie, your ability to climb the trees, see the strategy and where we need to go, and talk really intelligently about that with all of the experiences that you have, and then to disseminate it down into executionable. Let's do this. This is what I got to do, and then I go out and do it. That's something very unique. And you hear about the visionary entrepreneur, the visionary CEOs, and then the implementer, CEOs, and the purple unicorn is when you get that CEO that is a visionary, but also can execute and hold people accountable and actually run the company, right? And that's what Jamie is. Jamie's that purple unicorn that can do that, which is almost impossible to find.
I'm blushing.
And of course, I love spending time with Jamie. Anytime.
And we've gotten to work on projects since then.
We've gotten to work on projects. We have a burger.
And you've actually did computer work for that. Actually, you're quite committed to computer work when you when you need to be.
When I need to be, yes, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And, and Jamie's just so easy to work with, I'm always finding excuses, Jamie, for us to keep on working together, even though,
I know.
WA and those sort of things. So
Yeah.
Just love spending time with you. For sure.
There you go. That was our final question. Thanks for being with us, Kate.
Yes.
Always.
Thanks for doing
Thanks
this.
for having me on twice. That's amazing.
I know. Yeah.
Look forward to the next one.
Yeah, 100%. We'll do the 3-peat.
Ooh, maybe after Europe.
After Europe and maybe after your race, so we can hear about your strong finish. Your Australia visit. Yeah, we'll get Europe, Australia. We'll do the downloads. You're like our, what do they call those? You're like our field reporter. The people who go into our correspondent, our foreign correspondent. There we go.
Listener.
Awesome. Thank you, Kane.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Bye for now.